And now it's time for Windy City Sports Talk. And your host, Ryan Young. Hello, Chicago! Welcome to this live Wednesday, October the 19th edition of Windy City Sports Talk. I am Ryan Young. For the next half hour, we're going to recap and preview everything going on in the world of sports. If you want to follow me on Twitter, go to @ringside_rep. I once again typed in Windy City Sports Minute instead of Windy City Sports Talk. But you guys get the gist. Okay, last night, of course, we had a later show because I was in Milwaukee visiting my aunt in the hospital, so we had a 6:30 show last night, and it didn't help. The bats for the Cubs still not turned on. I think their last hit, or their last run scored, was the solo home run by Dexter Fowler Saturday night. And if you would have told me after that they wouldn't score another run going into Wednesday, I would have been, not so much I would have been shocked about Sunday's game, but definitely the game against Rich Hill last night. Now, I was thinking about how am I going to come into this show today and talk. Am I going to go on this tirade, which I wanted to do, but that's not the way I really feel at this point. I've said it numerous times, I'm usually a guy that's nervous 95% of the time when the Cubs are in the playoffs. I think that San Francisco Giants series might have took them out because I have not been nervous once in this series. I felt confident, and that confidence is gone, part of it, but then part of it is still here. Once again, the Cubs last night lose of a final of 6-0. They're now down 2-0 in the series. They're down 2-1 in the series. And now they play a big game. We'll get into the preview in that game for tonight a little bit later on. The matchup against the ALCS game begins in about less than 5 minutes. And of course, I'll give you updates on here, but the main thing is the first half of the show is going to be dedicated to what happened to the Cubs. And, of course, you saw a lot of what happened at Wrigley. I mean, this team looked very confident going into Los Angeles. You saw this team being very relaxed in their off day on Monday. And you were hoping, okay, maybe this team's relaxed, get back on track, this team's going to be fine. And then you get into the ball game against Rich Hill, which you think, and I thought too, I predicted them to win, and you think, okay, maybe this team has a possibility to do something. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The offense still not there. Rizzo's still not there, even though he was able to get a walk. In that second inning, the Cubs had a chance against Rich Hill. And you even heard John Smoltz saying on the broadcast that, okay, they have the opportunity to bounce back. That was their time to pounce. They had second and third, one out. They couldn't get anyone in. And after that, I think the Dodgers then took a 1-0 lead, and then eventually led to a 3-0 lead on the Grandal home run. And you knew by that point that I don't think they were going to come back. Bryant got another hit, but besides that, Rizzo and Russell are still not playing well. Then they took Addison Russell out. You can tell life is rough for Addison Russell when he gets pinched hit for by Jason Hayward. And Jason Hayward's not hitting the ball either. And in the mix of all that, you're also seeing also Hayward looked like he shouldn't even have been in the major leagues on them swings. He absolutely terrible. So just nothing went right for the Cubs last night in Game 3. And you get the idiots on, and I got it. And my goal, and it's hard to, is to stay, definitely if they do lose this series the night they clinch, I think I got to take a 24-hour ban off of social media. Let every Sox fan that right now is hiding under the rug popping their ugly head out to wait for the Cubs to fail. Same with Brewer fans. They're waiting for the Cubs to fail because, you can't really blame them. I mean, that's what us as Chicago fans do for any Wisconsin team. You're telling me even though the Bears lost a heartbreaker that it didn't ease the pain that the Packers lost to the Cowboys at Lambeau without Tony Romo? Yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed a lot of that game. So, and when the Brewers made it to the NLCS, obviously that was a hard one because you had to root for the Cardinals, who eventually went on to win the World Series. But, and the White Sox, they're just a train wreck. And, you can still ask them. It's still 2005. And I think George Bush is still in the White House. So, let them, they can say what they want. And, to avoid me going to the hospital and breaking out in hives, I'll probably, the social media part of me will definitely be away. But this series isn't over yet. And you got to stay positive, which is hard for a Cub fan. I've seen people say Cubs are going to take the next 3. Why are you doubting them? Well, if you think the Cubs are going to take the next 3 games off the offense you've seen in the last 2, I want some of what you're having. Because that offense, is in a rut. It's just not going, it's just not going well. And, obviously, one swing can turn this whole team around. They're close. It just feels like last night was that game. They were hitting the ball. It was just right at someone. You saw some big strikeouts, and I'm giving complete kudos to Rich Hill. Rich Hill did a phenomenal job last night. He pitched very well. Bite the hand that fed you. 30-something. I didn't know he was almost 40 years old. He was like 37. So, kudos to him. And I said yesterday last night, I think the Cubs, if they did not win every game that Kershaw wasn't pitching, they're going to lose this series. But then if you put that into perspective a little bit, if they can just win 1 in L.A., this series is going back to Wrigley Saturday night. You don't want to get swept here in L.A. So I think tonight's the game you circle on the calendar of a must-win, because then I come back tomorrow, and there's really nothing else to say except possibly prepare for the inevitable. And that's Clayton Kershaw, even though it is against John Lester. So, you want this series to get back to Chicago. You got to try to take out the 20-year-old, but, every time you try to doubt and every time you want a team you think the team's going to fall, or you think the team's going to be able to hit their opposing pitcher, they can't. But one thing I was thinking about when I said that, okay, you have to face Kershaw probably 2 more times, Game 5 and then Game 7, is that if the Cubs can't hit, if they can see Kershaw, because again, it would be Thursday or tomorrow, and then Sunday, if you pitch 5 and 7, if it gets that far. Because even if the Cubs win the next 3, there still wouldn't be a Game 7. They're going to win 3 out of 4. So now, if you got to see Kershaw 3 times in a week, you got to think you can connect with him once, and that'd be tomorrow. And when he's going to be opposed by Lester, and then if there is a Game 7, he'd probably be opposed by Lackey, who's pitching tonight. You just got to think that these bats got to come alive, and I think tonight might be the night. And we'll get into tonight's game a little later, but this one's owned to Rich Hill. And I heard the LA fans, they're just as nervous as Cub fans. They've been there before. They've been to the NLCS and not been able to make it to the World Series. So they know exactly, with the 2-1 lead, just like how I was nervous with a 2-0 lead for the Cubs in San Francisco, I don't think they're comfortable yet. I think the Dodgers win tonight. That's obviously, like I said, the inevitable. Unless they can beat Kershaw probably one or 2 times. Because, again, he might not be able to pitch. Because, again, if you think about it, yeah, you advance in the NLCS, but then that puts Kershaw behind the 8 ball for the World Series if they need him. So do they possibly use him out of the bullpen in Game 7 and go with... Because Kenta Maeda hasn't pitched. If they win tonight, you'd think they go with Maeda tomorrow. Because you got that wiggle room, but they probably don't want to go all the way back to Chicago and throw Kershaw. Because then if they do him 6, he can't pitch 7. So a lot of interesting things there, and that would be Lester against Maeda, which was Game 1 and the Cubs won. But the Cubs, I think, need to win tonight. Tomorrow's probables have not been announced yet, but a lot of people are speculating Lester and Kershaw. But Cubs lose Game 1, or Game 3. They're down 2-1. Game 4 tonight, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Game 5 of the ALCS is currently going on from Toronto. And if Toronto wins that series, go back to Cleveland for Game 6 Friday night in Cleveland. Okay, so now that's it on the Cubs. For right now, we'll get back into that in a little bit. Of course, we got a chance to recap that game from yesterday, as the Toronto Blue Jays were able to stay alive. They win, and they are now the candle's still lit, if you will. And being home, I think, helped them. I don't know if coming back from a 3-0 is likely. I don't think it is. But I think they're trying to make it a series. And I think for the Cubs or Dodgers, they'd like to see that series go a little bit longer because they don't want to have to face a fresh team and have their rotation already. Because Kluber just pitched on short rest. I don't think he'd be ready till possibly a Game 7. And I don't think anyone expects that series to go 7 except the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, the Blue Jays, Jose Batista's like been like the mouthpiece of baseball. He said the ALCS is rigged, and then he also said that, and then in the last time, I think today, he said the pitcher for Merritt, he says he's going to be shaking in his boots against that lineup, so we'll see if that'll happen. Of course, we'll have updates throughout the show, and of course, that game's currently airing right now on TBS, and again, if the Indians win, they'll go to the World Series for the first time since 1997. And like we said, whoever wins the World Series this year, a streak's going to be broken. The Dodgers won it in 88. The Indians, I think, won it in 48. Cubs haven't won it since 1908. And I'm not sure about the Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays won it in 93. So that was the earliest time we've seen a World Series out of these 4 teams. So it's going to be... I mean, you want it to be the Cubs. I mean, I've said for a long time I thought the Cubs were going to win in 2017. I think this team needs some experience still. Plus, a healthy Kyle Schwarber in that lineup would help. But, I'm not giving up on this. And, of course, there's people out there saying, bandwagoners are saying don't give up. Or are giving up. And, I mean, one person said, Jake Arrieta, da-da-da, about no one knew who he was. And, I mean, no one did know who he was. I mean, I knew he was a Baltimore Oriole, but... he's still a guy that no one really thought about or talked about, but that doesn't deny the fact that he was a Cy Young Award winner last year. This year, not so much. I mean, in the playoffs, it just seemed like even last year in the playoffs, he had that great game against Pittsburgh. But I think, but ever since then, he just has not pitched well in the playoffs. So hopefully, hopefully he gets another chance. Maybe he'd be Game 7. Or they throw him in on Saturday. Give him time. So we'll see what happens, but Cubs are down 2-1 in the series. A big game tonight, and then might be a lot to talk about because you don't want the Cubs season to end during the week. You want to have a chance to do it over the weekend, so I have a chance to digest it, whether they win or lose. Have a chance to digest it before we're back on Monday. So hopefully that's the case. You got Bears-Packers tomorrow. And they got the debate tonight going up against the game. So, a lot of interesting stuff. But okay, we're going to take a stop for baseball for just a quick second, and we do got to cover the Hawks, who last night played at the Madhouse and against the Flyers. That was their 2010, their first Stanley Cup victory, as they faced the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't think it's a rematch. I don't think barely anyone's on that Flyer team anymore. But the Hawks went into a final of 7-4. Well-played game by the Hawks. Didn't get a chance to watch any of it because, of course, watching the playoffs. I promise you I will get into hockey and basketball. Well, basketball hasn't started. It starts in, I think, a week from tonight. The Bulls start against the Celtics. I'll be getting into that. I'm going to cover hockey. I'm going to get into all of that. Once the MLB, but I mean the playoffs, and I'm going to watch, no matter who's in it, I got to watch the World Series to cover it. So I will get into this stuff because once winter's here, there's not much to cover when it comes to football. I got to cover that too. But I'll be there. I'm going to try my best to cover the Hawks. I've watched 0 games out of they're now 2-2, 3-2. But so I'll get there. But I just haven't been able to get there yet. But the Hawks will win in 7-4. Their next game will be coming up in a couple of nights. I believe Friday night against the New Jersey Devils. So that will be let me check real quick. I have the schedule right here. Yeah, their next game coming up is, at Columbus on Friday night. Then home for Toronto Saturday. So they got a double dip over the weekend again. And we'll talk about them on Friday's show, which will be Father or Son-Father Friday with the big galoot, which we were talking today. We're like, is it going to be the last one? Because he's only staying for baseball season. So was that possibly the last one? They need to make the World Series for him. So we'll see. And then will the Cubs still be alive? We'll see. But the Hawks win 7-4. Nice win there. They'll, like I said, they'll be in Columbus on Friday. I'll try to get. The Cubs aren't playing. The ALCS is off. Or no, that would be Game 6. So if there's a Game 6, then probably be watching that. But I promise you, I'll get to watching some hockey eventually. Okay, we still got to preview the ALCS game going on right now. We're gonna preview Cubs and we're gonna preview Cubs Dodgers Game 4 tonight. Talk a little bit about that. So that's all coming up. We got half the show done. We got half to go. This is your Windy City Sports Minute for Wednesday, October the 19th. The Cubs unable to do anything and get those bats going in Game 3 last night. They lose of a final of 6-0. They've been shut out in 2 consecutive games. First time in franchise history that's happened in the postseason. Game 4 is tonight from Chavez Ravine. John Lackey at 11-8 against Urias at 5-2, 3.39 ERA in the regular season. He's the youngest pitcher in MLB history to pitch in a playoff game. Urias is 20 years old. The Blackhawks able to get a win last night of a final of 7-4 at the Madhouse over the Philadelphia Flyers. And of course, the ALCS going on right now, Game 5 between the Indians and those Blue Jays. Merity against Estrada. And of course, I'll be recapping or giving an update on that coming up after the Windy City Sports Minute. That is your Windy City Sports Minute. Now back to Windy City Sports Talk. Well, we're back here on Windy City Sports Talk, halfway through this Wednesday, halfway through the week. And of course, big Thursday show coming up, but we still got a lot to go left here on Wednesday. Ryan Young with you. Of course, last night, if you didn't know, we did have a 6:30 show. It was a little later, so hope you guys listened. And of course, we're back normal time. Monday's show I'm going to be FE2 because I'm going to go up and see my aunt again in Milwaukee. Of course, recovering from a liver transplant, so she's doing good. Hopefully, she stays that way. And of course, Ringside Report, my other show you can catch on YouTube and my Facebook page. It's Liver Cancer Awareness Month, so Ringside Report's gone green. So that's for her. Okay, now let's preview ALCS Game 5, which is currently going on from Toronto, and a Mike Napoli double has led the Indians to strike first. They have a 1-run lead, again a win tonight or win in this game, and they are the American League champions. So they're trying to keep it going. That one went off the wall. And Francisco Lindor scored from first, so they're up 1-0. But overall in this series, I think this is going to be a very good series, or it has been a good series. But I don't know, is it going to get back to Cleveland? Cleveland don't want to do this. I mean, when you're always there, you want to finish it where you're at, get a chance to go back home, celebrate. I mean, you got all day because you're the early game, but get a chance to celebrate, go to the World Series. Now, if you're a Cub or Dodger fan, or the Cubs or the Dodgers, you don't want to see this series end, because or do you? Because will the rest help them, or would the rest hurt them? So I think that's another thing that definitely goes into perspective. That hey, can they win, or can they get this done? Or because you don't want it. That's a test also. Was the long layoff help a team or hurt a team? You really haven't seen anything. The Cubs offense, they went from Sunday to Friday to play their first playoff game, and the offense still hasn't really. They won the first series, but still haven't really connected at all. So. It's not something that you're really. And when you play that wild card game, did the Giants, and their bats weren't flying off the hook when they played Wednesday, and then started the series with the Cubs on Friday. So a lot of things do go into it, and I think it'll be. But do you want? You want the series to go longer, I think. Because maybe that would kind of simmer some of the momentum for Cleveland. Because, of course, whoever the American League team is, they will start in less than a week. Next Tuesday will be Game 1 of the World Series between them and between whoever that is, and, of course, the winner Cubs-Dodgers as of right now. So that one currently 1-0 in the lead of the Indians. The Blue Jays coming to bat in the bottom half of the first inning. We have about 10 minutes remaining here on the Windy City Sports Talk, even though it states Windy City Sports Minute. but still only less than 10 minutes to go. So that one's still going on. Merritt against Estrada. I'm sure the offense, and I mean, that place is loud, but if the Indians can win 2 of 3 in that loud building, they're going to be tough to beat in the World Series. And I think if the Cubs don't make it and they face the Dodgers, I'm definitely going to probably go with the Indians. Because why not? I mean, they're slumping. I mean, then how much pressure does that put on the Browns then? Say they to have the 2 Cleveland teams win a championship in a year. The only team not to would be them Cleveland Browns. That'd be interesting. But of course, I'll give you some updates if anything happens over the next 9 minutes. Like I said, the Blue Jays just beginning to bat. I don't think there's any lineups out yet for tonight's game. Cubs and the Dodgers game 4. Cubs trying to tie up the series to guarantee a game played back in Chicago. If they can, it'll be down 3-1, and possibly looking at Clayton Kershaw to seal the deal tomorrow night. And again, it is another lefty. I thought Urias was a righty, but he's a lefty. Let's see. I'm going to see if there's any lineups or get some numbers on this series like I did yesterday. And see here. There's no lineups out yet, but here's some numbers. Cubs again, or this is LA batters against John Lackey. Adrian Gonzalez in 6 at-bats is batting 167. Enrique Hernandez, which is Kike Hernandez, he has an RBI in 2 at-bats, batting 500. Howie Kendrick in 12 at-bats, batting 250. I don't think them two were teammates in Anaheim. Jock Peterson 0 for 2. Yasiel Puig 0 for 3. Reddick 0 for 4. Chooch, Carlos Ruiz batting 429 and 7 at-bats. Justin Turner, I think he's 2 for 3. He's gotten in 3 at-bats. Chase Utley in 9 at-bats, 222. So, I mean, nothing that's, I mean, they haven't seen, I mean, the most, like I said, Howie Kendrick, because, of course, I think maybe that was the Angel, well, he's a Dodger, so I don't know where they saw each other at. Probably Boston, when Lackey was a Red Sox. Okay, so that's that. And now let's take a look at batters against Urias. You'd be like, oh, well, they probably haven't seen him. Well, I think they crushed him at Wrigley earlier this year. There's a couple batters that have no plate experience against him, and that is Albert O'Mora, Chris Coghlan, and David Ross. In 4 at-bats, I mean, these are some pretty good numbers. In 4 at-bats, Javi Baez is batting 500 with a home run, 3 ribbies. Chris Bryant in 6 at-bats, batting 333, a home run and an RBI. Wilson Contreras in 2 at-bats, batting 500. 5 at-bats for Dexter Fowler, batting 400. Jason Hayward, who's hitting one of his few home runs this season, was against Urias. I believe that was at Wrigley. A .667 batting average. Addison Russell for 5. Rizzo in 5 at-bats, 400 with an RBI. And it's another lefty. I mean, this team is stacked with lefties. So, I mean, that definitely makes this going to be very hard again. This rotation. I mean, the Cubs, and again, a lineup is usually probably not announced till about right after we're done. But I think, this is big for Urias. He is 20 years old, 2 months and 7 days, which is the youngest pitcher in, as I said in the Windy City Sportsman, he is the youngest pitcher to pitch in a playoff game, or in a league championship series, a game 4. But he's the youngest in the league championship. And again, he's another lefty, and I think the Cubs need to try to get to him early. Get into that bull. I mean, you don't know if you want to score against him. That's the case. This crowd's going to be loud. And, of course, you're going to see Larry King sitting there with his dyed hair and his plastic face and his plastic wife. And they're going to be sitting there doing whatever they're doing. And, I mean, I think he is a Dodger fan, which, congratulations. But still, that's the one celebrity you actually see in the front row. But, that's how it goes. But I think in this game, I mean, Lackey was supposed to come in that game in San Francisco and nail it down. He did not. The Cubs' bats came alive in that 9th inning. And now you can't expect that to happen again. You'd love to have Lackey come in, calm it down. He's very clutch. I think the Cubs need him in this situation. It's not an elimination game, but it's still a game you need to win. You don't want to go down 3-1, have an elimination game tomorrow, possibly against Clayton Kershaw. You want this series to no guarantee that you're going to pack in your bags and head back to the Windy City and head back to Wrigley for Saturday. And imagine if the Cubs can win both these games and have 2 chances to clinch at home. Because if you can beat Kershaw in Game 5, no matter if it's a 3-1 or 2-2 series, that is going to help this team tremendously. But I think they need to get out of this slump against Julio Arias tonight to be able to do that. And again, his starts have been pushed back tremendous. I think he was supposed to start in one of the, Game 2 or 3 of the DS, and they were in a pickle, so they took him out. And I'm not sure if he started since then. I don't even know if he's gotten a start in the playoffs. Let's see here. He is 1-0. No ERA. 2 innings. How does that happen? 2016 postseason, he pitched 2 innings. He must have came out of the bullpen. So he came out of the bullpen and pitched apparently in 2 innings. 1 strikeout. Doesn't look like he had no ERA. Because I know the Cubs rocked him. Cubs rocked him in that game at Wrigley. So they're hoping to be able to get a chance to do it again. And again, I think this is a big one for the Cubs. I think they know they need to win this one so the fans can avoid trying to fall off the bridge on shows tomorrow. And I mean, I'm not going to come on here tomorrow if they win or lose, depending on how they lose. The bats need to get going. I mean, obviously that's the case. If the bats can get going for this team, there's a chance. Because again, and I love what John Smoltz said last night. He said the first 2.5 games in whatever series he was talking about, the team played extremely, extremely well, or sucked in the first 2.5 games, and then the next 2.5 games really dominated, and where they really gave them a hit. So I want to say he said it was against the Rockies. So I mean, he's trying to give hope, and I think he knows that Cub fans are like have the noose around their neck, but still got to realize that, and I'm still just trying to keep Cub fans from tuning in or tuning out and giving up faith, because it can happen. I mean, why can't it be the Cubs make the comeback? Last year, I had the whole thing with when they were down 3-0 to the Mets, saying that, hey, they could do it against a New York team. They would have to face another Missouri team like the Red Sox did against the Cardinals. So, it can happen. But I think this year, the odds of even in this series is a lot better, obviously, tonight, than it was in that series. Because you're down 3-0, you have to have a lot of things go your way. And this year, obviously, you still do. But you need things to go your way tonight. I mean, things went their way in the Giants series. It has not gone their way for the Dodgers series so far. And I'm sure it's killing Giant fans to be like, we could be there, we think we can do it, Madison Bumgarner, Clayton Kershaw. But it's not what it is. It wasn't meant to be. Cubs, I believe it was a week ago yesterday. And they haven't really had much besides that grand slam by Montero, not much to celebrate since. So Cubs will try to get back on the high horse tonight. Try to be 2-2, guaranteed a weekend game, so I'll have time to digest everything that happens. If not, I'll have less than 24 hours to digest an elimination on Friday with Papa Sean, which will be Son Father Friday, possibly for the last time. But we're not thinking that way. We're thinking positive. We're thinking what can this team do? And hopefully it will be a victory. Tomorrow we're going to recap ALCS and NLCS. Game 5 for the ALCS. Right now, currently 1-0 Indians at the end, or top of 2. And, of course, Game 4 for the Cubs. We're going to preview Bears-Packers for tomorrow night as well. That's been overlooked. So maybe that'll get some more covered if the Cubs fail tonight. But we're not thinking that. We're thinking a win tonight. I'm not giving predictions because my predictions don't work. So go Cubs. Lackey needs to be that guy. Russell and Rizzo needs to do their thing and get a victory, get it 2-2, and get it back, and then have a Kershaw and Lester game. Everyone have a great day, Chicago. Go Cubs.